we're all good.
Pretty close to the equator there.
Yes. And the great thing about Nairobi is it's temperate.
Mm.
And then I see also we've got a couple of colleagues from TZ. So depending on where they're based in Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam is quite humid and warm, although this is also their cool month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I see one or two people also coming in from Kigali, Rwanda, where the weather is also fairly fresh and temperate.
Yeah.
So a mixture, a bit of rain.
We've had probably the most baridi sana winter in 9 or 10 years.
Really?
It was the coldest June since 2011, and it feels like the coldest winter since the World Cup in 2010. Because it was icy back then. I remember seeing the headlines in the newspaper that it was the coldest, the coldest FIFA World Cup, I think, in history, because it's typically Northern Hemisphere summer in the middle of the year, and here it was winter, and it was like there were games where it was like -2, -3, breaking all sorts of records.
Yeah, didn't need an extreme winter in South Africa right now, combined with Corona.
Yeah, and we literally had a double wave cold front over the past week. Cold front hits Saturday, Sunday, and then again Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's been quite harsh. Welcome to everybody who's tuned in. We have about 20 people who have logged in already. We still have about 8 or 9 minutes until we're going to go live officially. So welcome to all of you, and let us know where you are. Let us know how the weather is wherever you are in the world.
Okay, in case you're wondering, you should see that there is a chat feature. If you click on the chat option, just make sure that if you want, you're sending your message to all panelists and attendees, so we can all see where each other is from.
Absolutely. And Avi and I have been in Swahili classes this morning with Ian, brushing up on some greetings and some weather conditions. So we've said karibu, which means welcome in Swahili, in case you're wondering. And we've got Daisy here from Nairobi, Kenya. So welcome to Daisy. Welcome to Rosemary from Nairobi. Kind of cold this morning. I think it's all relative. I think one's body acclimatizes to different conditions.
I see Felicity's joined us from Palladium Group. Felicity, habari gani, and welcome.
Let me practice that. Ian, just say that again for me.
Habari gani. It kind of means like, what's news?
Habari gani.
Yeah, there are many ways to say hi, but we'll try to keep you on the path of Swahili rather than Sheng, which is the slang.
Habari gani. So is that Swahili? Habari gani.
Habari gani, yes, it is.
Okay, great. And we've got David Flax tuning in from Ranana in Israel. We've got Dwayne in Joburg, Dwayne Weber. We've got Peter also from Nairobi, Kenya. Jumbo.
I don't remember. Yeah, I was in Kenya just under a year ago. Went to the Masai Mara. It was beautiful and amazing. And I remember Jumbo. And I remember Asante Sana. Just thank you, I think.
Oh, I remember that from The Lion King.
Yeah, that's where many people here remember it from.
And Jumbo, I think I remember from 2010 from the theme song, Waka Waka, with Shakira and Zolani from Freshly Ground. Okay, so we've got Dwayne Weber says Pole Pole Rafiki.
Okay, which means slowly, slowly, friend.
Okay, Rafiki's also a Lion King reference.
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to everybody.
Everything comes from, you've got to remember, Dan, everything comes from East Africa.
Yeah.
Everything.
True.
Yeah.
I've only paid one, Avi's been to Kenya. I've made one visit to East Africa, which was Rwanda 3 years ago.
You actually trained Excel classes in Rwanda 3 years ago. I think that was as a kind of a corporate social responsibility endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. So we went and we ran some free masterclass sessions at the University of Rwanda. I think it was the University of Kigali, and then also at a couple of other organizations for about 80 to 90 people. And just very friendly, hospitable, warm people, and beautiful, beautiful country. They say the land of 1,000 hills and 1,000,000 smiles, I think it is.
Let's hope somebody from Rwanda can confirm that for us. I see now Dwayne's talking about Kilimanjaro and his climb up there. And we've got a couple of Tanzanians joining us this morning as well. So I'm sure they'll be glad to hear that we've got Dwayne who's climbed Kilimanjaro. Well done, Dwayne.
Yeah, that's quite an achievement. It's close to 6,000 meters, highest peak in Africa.
Yes.
And yeah, that's amazing. I was fortunate and privileged to climb Mount Fuji last year. Yeah, spectacular, but actually nowhere near as high as Kili. So it's about 3,700 meters. And yeah, you start feeling the altitude above 3,000. And sure, we felt the tail end of the typhoon that had swept through Japan at that time. It was typhoon season. And yeah, we were being battered and bruised by 90-kilometer-per-hour winds on the way up. Dwayne says it's on his bucket list. Yeah, I strongly recommend it. Please, hopefully soon we can travel, we can get up there. There's a specific window where you can actually climb because it's so treacherous and so volatile in terms of the weather. So it's like July, August, and we went in mid to late September. So it was like the tail end of the season, and we weren't really meant to go up. And there's like 5 or 6 different paths up. And most of them were actually closed. We found the one path that was actually open with the mountain hut halfway. We slept over. And yeah, it was just a fascinating, incredible experience.
When you come to Kenya, we'll climb Mount Kenya, which although it's not as high as Mount Kilimanjaro, in some ways it's actually a much more difficult climb because of the temperatures and other factors. So
you're not doing a good job at selling it then.
That's on Dan's bucket list. No, I'm doing a very good job because Dan loves challenges. The steeper, the better for Dan.
At the moment, yeah, I'm keen, and at the moment, just traveling, getting onto a plane is quite a challenge, which I'm keen to. And I know that SAA had regular flights to Kenya. I'm not sure if those are going to be continuing anytime soon. So I'll get on Kenya Airways.
But I was going to add to the conversation earlier, just talking about some geography. It's also interesting and worthwhile to note that we quite grateful that we currently have around 70 IMF employees doing our training in West and East Africa. So that's just some exposure that we've got there as well. We're grateful that they, can do it in their own time, their own space via the online platform.
Brilliant. And I see we're now up to 74 participants as we get ready to kick off in a minute or two.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ian. And welcome to everybody who's just joined. There's been about 30 or 40 people who have joined in the last couple of minutes. So welcome and thank you for tuning in. We sent out a notification or an invitation earlier this morning at about 8 o'clock South Africa time. And there's actually been an incredible response. It was a little bit last minute, but we decided to open it up to a whole lot of our contacts who have attended free training sessions that we've hosted during this lockdown period, and we're grateful for the support. And there's really been a lot of, I think, appreciation just for the content that we've been giving for free on the Excel side. We've also done a PowerPoint free training, as well as quite a lot of Zoom training, helping people to get up and running with Zoom functionality, to be able to understand and appreciate how to use Zoom effectively, how to use meetings and webinars, and how to present oneself on camera. So once again, it is wonderful to be back here. We have been running Excel Academy for the last 6.5 years, and the core offering pretty much until lockdown was Excel, and we have expanded our offering over the last few months. Welcome to Gladys. Gladys says a very chilly Nairobi. Felicity is in Sea Point, so welcome to you. Sea Point had some storms. Wow, that was quite a spectacle. The foam storms over the last couple of days. I think it was last week. Looked like it was snowing foam from the sea.
Okay, it's 11 a.m. and sharp outside. That means it's 12 p.m. if you're in East Africa, which means good afternoon. How strict do we want to be at the time?
I think, can we give it another 60 seconds and then let's kick it off?
Absolutely. In the meantime, we are welcoming everybody who's just joined us. The number is almost 100 people in the webinar so far. So welcome to all of you. Theo is in chilly, sunny Cape Town. Selwyn's in Mooly Point, also in Cape Town. Ninjalo 6 is in South Africa somewhere. Janet says Asante Sana. Janet Ruben Lekashingo from a warm, beautiful Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Wonderful to have you with us.
Hi, Janice.
This morning / this afternoon. Tessa says good morning, and from a sunny Cape Town. Thank goodness the stormy weather is over. We've got Natalie in Joburg. We've got Margot van Reineveld in Sandton.
I'm so impressed there. I see Eskeas Abebe from Ethiopia is with us. Eskeas, good morning to you. We are with you in prayer and thought as you guys face the current uncertainty in Ethiopia. And I guess you must be coming in from a VSAT at World Food Program in order to be in on this call. So well done for making that happen for yourself. And Eskeas, we are with you, my brother.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And Avi and I echo that. And thank you, Eskeas, for joining us this afternoon.
There's good news. Eskeas, you're the bringer of good tidings. The internet is back now. Fantastic. Ethiopia has switched it all back on. Okay.
After almost 2 weeks, I think.
Yes, correct. As we say in Ethiopia, chigiri yalam, which means all is okay.
Yeah, and I guess maybe important, and Eskeas will appreciate if we mention that we had a little taste of that so we can have some empathy over the last few days here with load shedding in South Africa. Yesterday from 12 in the middle of the day until 4:30, we had no power, no internet. So we had to be quite resourceful and find other ways to keep busy and keep productive.
Right. I'm going to call time now, and shall we begin?
Absolutely.
Dan, over to you.
Great. So welcome to everybody who's joined us. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We are going to make this extremely worth your while over the next hour or so. My name is Dan. I'm the founder of Excel Academy, and I want to also give a big welcome and a big thank you to Ian Hotz from Powerplay in Nairobi. We have partnered together over the last few months, and this is an initiative which we have put together to welcome you to this free masterclass, which is specifically focusing on Excel efficiency and Excel helping you to become more proficient and confident, and really revealing to you some of the best kept Excel secrets and techniques to implement immediately into your day-to-day work and to really ramp up your confidence and proficiency. So we're very excited that you have joined us. We're going to make this extremely worth your while. You might be watching the recording. If you're watching live, we're going to be sending the recording as well, so you'll be able to watch that. And a couple of things to mention briefly. You will notice you probably are quite familiar with Zoom. At this point, it has been almost 4 months of lockdown, so people have been using Zoom extensively. I saw their daily stats. Their usage has gone up from 10 million users per day to 300 million users per day. So you're probably quite familiar, but this is a webinar, meaning that there are 1 or 2 additional features. You can pose questions in the Q&A button. So if you click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you can post questions there. Avi is my co-pilot. We'll be co-piloting together, and Avi is exceptionally on the ball with responding to your questions. Some of your questions we will take live as well. And you also have the ability to comment and answer other people's questions and upvote questions. So if you see something that you're also wondering what the answer is, you can upvote or like that question and it will come up at the top of the list. So that's just some Zoom housekeeping. The chat is also active. So if you have just joined us, there's been another about 40 people in the last 2 minutes. So welcome to all of you, and please post a message in the chat to let us know where you are. And Ian, from your side, you are in Nairobi, and it is a little bit chilly this morning, and you've seen a lot of familiar names in the audience. Remember, we can't see your face in the audience. You don't need to worry about whether your camera is on or off. This is a webinar, so at the moment, the 3 of us are on screen. Yeah. Ian, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, I just want to say welcome to everybody. I see we've got a great group with us this morning. A couple of people from the banking sector. I see Stan Chart, KCB, GT Bank, FCB. You're well represented this morning, so welcome to all of you. A special shout out to Evans Munyori. Thank you for joining us. We've also got quite a few players from the development and humanitarian sector, AGRA, a big team from WFP, including our colleague from Ethiopia. Palladium Group, GIZ, thank you for joining us. Same with Plan International, and Kenya Red Cross. Couple of people from the other sectors, like Coca-Cola, Zuku, Ola Energy, welcome Lucy. And then nice to see some guests with us from Rwanda, from Tanzania, Tigo, Catherine, Karibu Sana. and of course, Kenya. Today is not just about Excel. For those of you who've worked with me, who've been in either my leadership trainings or our leadership immersion sessions at leadership team level, we always talk about ownership. And I think today is about us partnering with you to enable you to manage, master, and manipulate data so that you can actually make better quality decisions, which is what being, thinking, and acting like an owner of a business or an owner of a unit of a business or a supporting function is all about. So I'm looking forward to Dan honoring that with us. Dan, back to you, and I'm now going to fade out as I hand over to you guys who are the best at what you do, and leave it to you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to do now is we want to dive into Excel as soon as possible. If you have attended any of our training before, you will know that we are very, very practical. We don't like to talk in theory according to a textbook. We like to get our hands dirty. We like to get very, very practical when it comes to Excel. And there we go. Avi is so practical that he actually likes to spend time inside Excel. There we go. So what I've done is I've posted a message in the chat which says that you can click that link to download the Excel file that we'll be using for today. So I'm going to click that link as well. And I want to show you the page that it opens up onto. Okay, you will be familiar with this page because you probably most likely used that link to register for this event. So I would like you to click on that link right now, and this is where you'll get to. You don't need to register again, obviously, because you've already registered, but you can click on the green button to download the Excel file. So I'm going to do that. Okay, and you should see, there we go. There's the Excel file. This is the cheat sheet, which you can download as well while you're at it. You don't need to open that, but you can just download it for now. Okay. Great. So I'm going to give you about half a minute just to make sure that you have downloaded that. And in the meantime, I'm going to open it up. And what's quite nice in Zoom is that we've got the ability to check in with you and use a poll. Okay, so I am going to be asking you, because I'm very curious, are you going to be doing the Excel exercises with us, or are you just going to be watching today? So I'm going to launch that, and you can answer that just while you're getting that Excel file open, because I'm very curious to know. It's okay if you are watching, if you're not going to get your hands dirty, if you're just going to be watching. I know that some of you are on one device, you might be watching on your tablet or your phone, and in that case, it's very difficult to actually work on Excel at the same time. You might be well set up with two screens, you might be at home, you might be in the office. Everybody's got a different situation, so we just want to be cognizant of that and just keep in mind whether you'll be working with us as we go or not. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to leave the poll up for another 5 seconds. So just get your votes in the next 3 seconds now. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I'll share that just so that you can see that 52% of you are going to be watching and doing, and then 39% will be watching only, and 9% of you are undecided. Okay, great. So the majority will be watching and doing. Fantastic. Okay. See, Avi's posted the link again. So I'm assuming that everyone who wants to download the spreadsheet has done so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen once again so that you can see the data here. Okay. When you download a file, you'll see from our website here, it's come up with a strange title just before HR professionals. It's got a weird code. We're going to click enable editing, and what we find is the best thing to do in this case is, firstly, I'm going to zoom in because it might be a bit small, just so we can see what's going on. And secondly is we want to save as for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because we want to give the file a new name. We want to save it as, so we want to maintain control over the different versions, but also because this file actually has a very strange random name. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on save as, either with our mouse, or we can use a keyboard shortcut. Now at Excel Academy, if you have been on our training before, you'll know, besides for being very practical and hands-on, we are also big believers in the keyboard, in using the keyboard to maximize our efficiency. Okay, if we can work more efficiently, we'll save time, we'll get more done, and we'll actually work more accurately and have more fun. So we will be sharing with you many keyboard shortcuts over the course of today. And even if you have done some of our training before, it will probably be a really good refresher to start practicing and implementing those keyboard shortcuts and to create habits. So I'm going to press F12 on my keyboard, okay? And that's if I'm on a Windows computer. I'm going to ask you another question in a moment. But for now, I'm going to save this in downloads. I'm happy to save it in the downloads folder. Obviously, you can save it in whichever folder you like on your computer. And I'm going to take out that strange code at the start, and it's called HR Professionals Data, and I'm going to put my initials there, DS, just so that I know that this is my file. In fact, I'm going to save this in Dropbox, and the reason for that is so that it synchronizes with Avi. So there we go. I can actually see Avi has saved a version already in that Dropbox folder, and it's almost real-time sync. So Avi's is ARL, mine is DS. I'm going to save it there. Okay, fantastic. All right, now I actually do want to ask you a quick question, another quick question. I want to know, what device are you actually using, because that will help us to make sure that we cater to your needs and your keyboard shortcuts. So are you working mainly, most of your work on Excel on a Windows computer or an Apple Mac or on both? I know many people work on both, and it's difficult to decide between the two. And I see the vast majority looking like about close to 90% of you are working on a Windows computer. Okay, great. There we go, 90%. Thank you for your votes. Okay, if you are watching on YouTube, unfortunately, you cannot vote right now because the polling on Zoom doesn't come through on YouTube. Avi, if you can manage on the YouTube page, you can just go to youtube.com/Dan Stillerman. If you can just post whatever we're commenting in the chat, you can post across to YouTube as well, because I know there are some people watching live on YouTube as well. Okay, fantastic. So as you can see, 90% of you using a Windows computer. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the Excel file. Okay, great stuff. Now, Avi, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself as well, because we actually haven't heard from you in the last couple of minutes. So welcome to you too. I see that you're sitting inside Excel. Thank you for putting this Excel file together. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this data represents?
Awesome. Yeah, good to be here. What the data represents is this was a download of all the members' progress on our online workshops as of the 1st of June. We took away the email addresses to remove any privacy or anonymity issues. And what it basically is just the progress on our 4 different workshops, our 3 core Excel workshops, 101, 202, 303, and our short Outlook secrets workshop. So what you'll see is if we've got a person's full name, we're going to discuss how to break that up into first and last name. I know that many people are going to find that quite useful. If you've got a list of full names, how to break that up into first and last name. We're going to discuss the progress, how to get that into a percentage. There's a sign-in count, the number of times the person has signed in. Their last activity, which currently is formatted. We're going to show you how to format that. If it wasn't formatted, I may have accidentally left it in as being formatted. So we'll show you how to unformat it and then reformat it. And then we're going to discuss the SAST and what that is. And yeah, just getting to grips with managing a data set. Typically, it helps just to understand how to, just some basic and easy steps to just get some insights into the data. Because very often, we're going to show you a shortcut soon to look at how far this data goes down. It's 6,000 plus data entries or more. How can you just get to grips with what's actually going on? What can I learn from this in terms of the people that I'm managing?
Fantastic. Thank you, Avi. Okay, great stuff. So we actually have 5 secrets in store for you today. So we're going to be revealing 5 awesome, well-kept secrets that you may or may not have encountered before in your day-to-day work on Excel. But either way, I think you're going to like them, you're going to enjoy them, and we're going to be taking you on this journey where we're starting off with raw data, which is exported from our system, and so many, many lines of data. We'll discover how many lines exactly that there are. But we're going to be taking you on this journey to really get to grips with the data, to be able to make better decisions, to understand what's going on inside this data, and just to give us a whole lot more perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you now another keyboard shortcut, which is going to help us to discover how many rows of data there are. Because if we press the down arrow button, the down arrow key on our keyboard, we can scroll down, we can hold it down, and it scrolls us down like that, but it's still taking quite a while. We can also press page down. At the moment, I can see rows 97 to 118. I can press page down and then see 119 to 140, then 141 to 163. So that's a little bit faster, but it's still quite a time-consuming process. What I can do as well is I can grip this scroll bar on the far right of my screen and scroll down like that, but also not the most efficient. The most efficient way to get to the bottom of this data is to press Control and the down arrow. Okay, and that takes us to Lerato in row number 6,754. I'm going to ask you now, how do I get to cell A1, back to the beginning of my data set, of my spreadsheet? Pop a message in the chat now if you know what the keyboard shortcut is to get back to cell A1 from anywhere in the spreadsheet. Okay, and while you are answering, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control and the down arrow key once again. Control and the down arrow key once again. It takes me to the very end of the Excel world. Okay. Excel is not infinite. Many people think that the spreadsheet is completely infinite and it just goes on and on forever because you can never get to the bottom. You actually can get to the bottom. It is over 1 million rows and over 16,000 columns. So if I press Control and the right arrow, I'll get to the very last cell in a spreadsheet, which is XFD. 1,048,576. So the point is, you don't need to know that or remember that, but there is a lot of space in Excel. It's the world's most widely used business productivity tool. And over the years, it has been expanded, the capacity of a spreadsheet, and it is extremely large. Over 17 billion cells in a specific spreadsheet, and that's only on the first sheet. Then there's more on the second and third and fourth and so on, of course. So in the meantime, I'm sure a number of you have posted the shortcut to get back to cell A1 in the chat. It is Control and the home button. That takes us immediately to cell A1, very similar to Google Maps when you've programmed home and you press home and it navigates you in a flash to the shortest route to get back home. Okay, many of us don't really need to use that because we are at home all day, every day, regardless during lockdown. Okay, so now that we've kind of got we've got some perspective on the size and scope of this data and the size and scope of a spreadsheet in total, what we can do now is we can use one of our favorite keyboard shortcuts and our favorite tools to really revolutionize the way that we work with a data set. Right now, we've got headings in the top row. Okay, and we've got a whole lot of data, over 6,000 rows of data. We've got, I think it's 9 columns, but it's not formatted very well. It's not so user-friendly. We know that if we scroll down, we can't see those headings at the top. The headings are not in bold. Nothing's been formatted. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you a very quick, easy to remember keyboard shortcut, which is in fact our first secret to working smart and our first secret today. And it involves standing anywhere inside the data. So right now I'm on cell H5 and I can be anywhere inside the data. I just must make sure that I'm not standing outside the data. And when I'm standing inside the data, I can press the keyboard shortcut Control T. Okay, and T in this case stands for table. Okay, so you can see there a little dialog box pops up. It says create table. Where's the data for your table? It's automatically selected the range, which is A1 to I6754, and it says my table has headers with a tick, and I can just click OK or press enter on the keyboard. Okay, now that's pretty cool because what has it done? It's gone and it's, as I said, revolutionized the way that we work with this data because it's converted the data into a table. And just as you would put a whole lot of things, food or your computer onto your table, this particular table holds your data. Okay, so it's a great way to hold your data. And what it means is that it's formatted well, and the functionality is really powerful and intuitive. And we're going to be exposing you to some of the functionality in a table over the course of this masterclass. Okay, so obviously visually, one of the first things we notice is the fact that the heading row is formatted uniquely with a blue background and white bold text. Then we see that we've got alternating blue and white banded rows, they're called. And also what I want you to notice is that there's a unique tab, a contextual tab up at the top of the screen where it says Table Design. And by the way, if you are working on a Mac, the shortcut is the same, Control-T. Your contextual tab at the top might not say Table Design, it might say Table, but it should have most of the same functionality. In general, Excel is a Microsoft Windows application, so if you are working on a Mac, some of the functionality won't be there or won't be as good, but for the most part, you'll be able to do most of the techniques within Excel. So we see we've got blue and white stripes, and as I said, we've got this Table Design contextual tab up at the top of the ribbon, and that tab goes away. As soon as we're not inside the table, the tab goes away. So if you lose that tab, you don't know where it's gone, it's because you've stepped outside of the table and you need to step back into the table, and then we've got that Table Design tab once again. Now, Avi often says, what if you have a strange, weird and wonderful allergy to the color blue? Okay, in that case, what you can do is you can choose another color. So here you've got a whole lot of table styles, and we can alternate between blue and orange. We can just hover our mouse cursor and see what it looks like. And we can even go to different light, medium, and dark styles. Okay, so if you have a specific color that you like, I know that Avi loves this, so we'll stick to Avi's color for now, which is orange, and then gray and white alternating bands, alternating rows. Banded rows, we can turn that on and off. Okay, so it does make it more legible and more user-friendly if we do, in my opinion, if we keep banded rows activated. If we want to hide the headers for whatever reason, we can untick that. Okay, if we want to bold or format the first column in a specific way, we can click on that tick box for first column, and in a similar way last column, okay, just to draw specific attention to each of those columns. And we could use banded columns as well, but I don't think that that's necessary for now. And what you'll notice as well is that these filter buttons are here automatically, and we can turn them on and off using this tick box if you're on an older version of Excel. In case you're wondering what version you're on, 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016, Office 365. Once again, most of the functionality is the same, but it's more aesthetic or cosmetic differences in terms of the look and feel of the ribbon, and there are certain buttons which are not there or which are in different places. So if you can't find that tick box for the filter buttons, you can go to the Data tab on your ribbon, and you can click or unclick this filter button, which has a funnel. By the way, when you hover your mouse cursor over any specific button on Excel or any of the Office applications, you'll see a few things, and this is really useful. Sometimes you'll see a little picture. In this case, you'll see the name of this button is filter. The keyboard shortcut is Control-Shift-L, and I do believe that the L in this case stands for list, because you are filtering or unfiltering a list. So that's how you can remember it at least. Turn on filtering for the selected cells. It explains to us what it does. It also vanishes after a few seconds. You'll see that the screen tip will disappear probably in the next few seconds. If it does disappear, you just hover over it again. And if you still need more help, you can click on Tell Me More. And that's a crucial thing to remember, is that if you are confused or if you are stuck when it comes to Excel, there are a number of ways that you can get help. The one is by pressing F1 on your keyboard, and that opens up help within Excel. There we go. I've just pressed F1. Okay, this is Excel help, and you've got a whole lot of different categories over here, and you can find what you're looking for. You can also Google. If you know what you're looking for and you need a quick fix, you can Google. Microsoft has a whole support page on their website, and of course you can reach out to us as well. We love helping. Specifically, Avi loves troubleshooting and helping, so you can always email us. Maybe Avi will pop our email address into the chat just in case you need to get hold of us for any Excel related help or any kind of assistance or queries. Okay, so we have seen some of the functionality of a table, and we really are big believers. We often run masterclasses and mini courses, crash courses, and it's always our first secret when we're dealing with data is convert data into a table. Most people don't know about it, and it really helps significantly. And as we said, and I'm going to repeat now, besides for aesthetically looking appealing and looking nice and formatted, and formatting our spreadsheet for us so we don't have to, also in terms of the actual functionality, you're going to see we're going to reveal some of the ways that it really assists you with all of your data analysis. Just makes life much, much easier. What we're going to do now is we're going to, I think Avi and everyone watching will agree that some of this data is actually a bit squashed. It's not terrible, but you can maybe see that, for example, these names are spilling over from column A into column B. So that's not so ideal. What we're going to do is we're going to auto-fit the column widths. Okay, and there's two ways to do that. As with most things in Excel, there's the mouse way and there's the keyboard way. So in this case, what we can do is we can show you how to do this using the mouse. We're going to select all the data, and we do that by taking our mouse and clicking between A and 1 on that little triangle, and then we're going to go and take our mouse in between any two columns, between C and D or D and E or A and B, doesn't actually matter, and we wait until our mouse cursor turns into that. It looks like a plus sign with arrows on either side, and we double click. And what that does is it auto fits all of the columns to be able to fit in the widest data that is in that particular column. So you can see here, there must be some full names that are quite wide. Okay, so it's given some extra space and looks a lot neater. Okay, we maybe will show you how to use the keyboard to do that, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. We do still have 4 other secrets to show you. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to talk about these 2 empty columns over here. And we can see we've got first name, we've got last name, and column A shows us full name. So Avi, I'm going to ask you for your thoughts on how best to go about this, to break down our full name, or to split it up into first name and last name.
Awesome. So it's a very good question. And there, as always in Excel, there's 2 ways to do things. There's the hard way, and then there's the smart way. So the hard way would be, and Dan can maybe do the first 1 or 2 to show you what not to do. You can go in and you can retype it, or you can copy and paste each one individually and cut it and paste it. Hopefully you haven't, and hopefully you'll never do any of those methods, because that is working way too hard. Okay, Irene, exactly. Irene has just commented and said there's a fantastic tool in Excel called text to columns. Okay, we're going to show you how it works. It's got multiple benefits and multiple features or multiple applications. We're going to show you the most common application. In our Excel 202 workshop, we also show you how to use text to columns to convert invalid dates into correct dates, which is a very useful thing to know. Good point, Elizabeth. Concatenate is if we were doing the opposite. If we had a first name and a last name separate, and we wanted to join them together, then we'd use concatenate. In this case, we're going to use text to columns. Okay, so we're going to show you how this works through a couple of steps. I think we can stick to Dan's screen, and I'll guide you guys, and I'll guide Dan through how this is going to work. So step 1, and I'm quite grateful, in my new office over here, I've got a nice surprise over here. I'm going to have to get rid of my Excel screen to show you what I've got. Excel 2016 for Dummies. And at the back of Excel 2016 for Dummies, we've got the 10 Excel commandments, which I'm about to find. And I want to tell you something that's very important in Excel. So at the back of Excel for Dummies here, they've got the 10 commandments of Excel 2016. And the 6th commandment, which we're going to keep coming back to, which is such an important thing to always remember in Excel, and I'll read it to you. Thou shalt select thy cells before thou bringeth any Excel command to bear upon them, just as surely as thou doth sow before thou reapeth. Okay, so what are we saying there in normal English? Okay, I know from my experience in Kenya, many of you probably have better English than we do. I know you guys were fantastic. So what does that mean? It means sounds very simple, but a very, very important concept in Excel. Always select something before you want to do something. So for example, guys, if we want to convert all of those full names in column A into first and last name, one of the first things we actually are going to need to do is to select them all. So what we're going to do, we're going to show you a very useful shortcut. We're going to stand anywhere in column A. It doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're somewhere in column A. And Dan's going to hold down the control button
And then also at the same time, press the space bar button. Now what that does, that selects all of the data in column A, not the heading though. You'll see it's quite specific, just the data. And what we actually need to do before we go into text to columns, because what text to columns will do, it's going to entirely break up all the full names into first name and last name, and we're going to be left with no full name. So what we're first going to do, we're going to, now that we've selected all the data in column A, Dan's going to press Control C. I'm sure many of you knew that, to copy, Control C. Then Dan's going to move, he's going to click anywhere in column B. Doesn't matter where, Control Spacebar again. And I'm sure many of you know this. This is just designating where we're going to paste. Many of you, I'm sure, know the shortcut to paste. That is Control and V. If you said Control P, that's wrong. Many people say that. Control P will print. That's something else. Okay, so now what we've done, we're setting ourselves up to now do text to columns. The useful thing about the way Dan's data currently looks is that it currently still has the data in column B selected. So we still are following that sixth commandment. So if your data looks the same as Dan's, then you are on the right track. If, for example, Dan, if you just move your mouse or your arrow or your selection, because some people might have done this. If you accidentally did that, it's fine. We need to then practice the sixth commandment again. We're going to stand in column B. We're going to press Control Spacebar. And now we are finally ready to go and do text to columns. Dan.
Yeah, I just want to talk very briefly about these this moving box. We sometimes call it marching ants. It looks like ants are marching around this. That is because we copied and then we pasted, and it's still in copy mode. So we could still paste once again. So that's indicative of the fact that that selection is still being copied. If we want to get rid of those marching ants, we can just press the escape button. Okay, we press the escape button on our keyboard, and now we've got our selection in column B. So yeah, thank you. Avi, do you want to continue there?
Fantastic. So now we've selected the data. What we now need to do in Excel 101, we show you how you could do this without the mouse. But for now, in terms of just keeping it simple, we're going to show you what to do with the mouse. So Dan's going to go up to the data tab on the ribbon because we're dealing with data. Okay, we want to do something to our data. So we've gone up onto the data tab on the ribbon, and more or less in the middle of the ribbon, in the data tools group, you'll see there's a button there which says text to columns. Dan's showing us the screen tip. If you just hover your mouse, it just gives you an insight. I've got to just lean in here to read it. Split a single column of text into multiple columns. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And what you'll notice, there are 3 steps in the text to columns wizard. Okay. For today's example, we're only going to use steps 1 and 2. Okay, in Excel 202, when we look at converting dates, we actually only use step 3. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that delimited is selected, which it is. So if it wasn't selected on yours, please change that selection in the middle to delimited. Then we're going to press next in the bottom right corner of that little box. What we're then going to do, we're going to tell Excel how is our data divided? How is it split up? How is it delimited? So it is, I'm sure you will have guessed, it's divided up by spaces. Okay, a very common application might be with commas. If you've got a comma separated CSV file, your data might be separated by commas. Then you would select comma and it would break up all the data based on commas. In our case, you can see as we scroll down, it's now put in a line wherever there is a space. So now all we need to do, quite simply, is just press finish. And that's it. We've now easily converted all those full names into first and last name. Now, we've cheated a little bit because we manipulated the data to make sure that there was only two what do you call it? 2 words.
There were no double-barreled names.
Yeah, there were no double-barrel names, no double-barrel last names. So that will make it a little bit trickier if that's what you do have. But we're not going to look at that in the scope of this workshop, this masterclass. If you do urgently need to know how to do that, pop us an email, as we said, info@Excel Academy, and I'll definitely show you how to do that. So that is secret Number two, using text to columns. So when you in HR, you're typically working with lots of names and people, and very often if you've got a full name, you want to split it up, or you can split up any type of data using the text to columns wizard now.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Avi. So if we go logically through this data, firstly, our first secret, we kind of looked at the entire database, converting it into a table. Then we went to the left-hand side and we said, let's break up, or let's split up the full names in column A into first name and last name, columns B and C. And now if we progress to the next column and we look at the progress column, okay, so column D over here, I can select the entire column using the mouse like that. Okay, clicking on the D over there, or I can press Control Spacebar. Once again, Avi holding up the Excel for Dummies very proudly. Commandment number 6 is to select thy data. So Control and Spacebar is something which, it's a keyboard shortcut which we love. You might not be so used to it, but with a bit of practice, it will start to become habit. Control and Spacebar lets us select that entire column. And I think a good thing to do is to think critically here to say, okay, well, these are progress stats, okay? And remember, this is actually a masterclass focused on HR professionals, and you may be looking at stats of your people in your organization, progress on training or attendance at work or leave days or whatever you're looking at. But it's really, regardless of the context, it's very, very important to ensure that our numbers tell the right story. So in this case, we've got numbers that are indicative of the progress of each person through that particular course. And we can see that those numbers are between 0 and 1. And you may well be thinking to yourself, these should be displayed as percentages. You may also be thinking that the way to convert a decimal into a percentage is to multiply by 100, because we happen to, okay, Avi's going double thumbs down. We happen to be trained like that, many of us in school, to take our calculator and to multiply a number by 100 to get it into percentage format. That is not a good method for working in Excel. Why? Because it's actually extra work, because you have to go and create a new column and multiply things by 100, but also it actually will change the nature of that actual number, because the number in itself shouldn't change, but the way that we display it or format that number is what needs to change. So what we're going to do is we're going to hover our mouse cursor. Firstly, we're going to go to the Home tab on the ribbon. So make sure that you are on the Home tab on the ribbon. By the way, if you double click on one of the tabs, you'll see that that particular ribbon or that particular tab, the functions on that tab disappear. And that may have happened to you in the past or now, and that's because you've double clicked, and it's not a problem. You haven't broken anything, so you don't need to worry. You just need to double click once again. I know that Avi likes to work in that mode, because what it does is it makes more space for Excel itself, and you can do the same thing by moving your cursor over there. It says there, collapse the ribbon, and it happens to be a keyboard shortcut, Control F1. You can do that, and you can get it back, probably using the same keyboard shortcut, but I'm going to just double click for now. So on the Home tab, I can hover my cursor over that percentage symbol, and there we go, percent style, and it actually tells us there's a keyboard shortcut. So Control, Shift, and percentage, and it says format as a percent. Now, regardless of what keyboard you're looking at, and we are aware that there are different keyboards and different keyboard settings, and particularly for those of you in East Africa, you may well be using a UK keyboard. So some of the keys and shortcuts are slightly different, and we will be addressing those in the next few minutes. But for now, this particular keyboard shortcut is universal. It's Control and Shift and the percentage symbol on your keyboard, which means Control, Shift, and the number 5. And when we do that, it converts all those numbers into percentage.
And just to add, in case you're wondering, this is secret number 3, some formatting shortcuts. So the first one that we've now looked at is Control, Shift, and 5, which converts to a percentage format. Hopefully that's going to save you a lot of time. And who actually taught us that shortcut? Dan, it's good to give credit where it's due.
Who taught us Control, Shift, percent?
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Yeah, Excel showed it to us, because all we had to do was hover over that button there on the Home tab, and Excel showed us. So there's really so much we can learn just by being curious and hovering and looking at those screen tips.
Absolutely. Thank you, Avi. And if we continue with this trend of using keyboard shortcuts to format our numbers, then let's continue moving to the right of our data, and we see sign-in count. Those are just numbers. That's the number of times that each person has signed into the platform, and that gives us a good indication of how many times they've logged in, how active they have been. And also we've got last activity. Now, what's quite interesting here is that this last activity column is already formatted, and I don't know if Avi did that intentionally or not, but either way, what I'm going to show you is that we can select the entire column. Okay, these are dates which have been formatted, but you might come across dates which look like this. I'm going to go to the ribbon over here where it says number. Okay, remember I'm on the home tab, and in the number group, so these buttons over here are all clustered together, and they all have to do with number formatting. And if we go to general, which is no specific format, then there we go. We've got numbers which are in the 43,000s. Okay, and I know Avi got very excited in about 3 weeks ago when the dates of the current date hit, I think, 44,000, and Avi made a nice video on LinkedIn about that, and that indicates the number of days since when, Avi?
Since 0 January 1900.
1 January or 0?
Well, 1 January is 1 day since 0 January 1900. So anyway, what it means is that there's a numbering system in Excel. If you want to learn a bit more, at the end of this masterclass, we're going to show you the links to our LinkedIn profiles, and you can see I've recently posted 2 videos dealing with dates in Excel, so we don't want to spend too much time on it, but you can see I've got 2 very useful videos in terms of dealing with dates in Excel. It's just a number coding system which primarily helps with doing calculations that involve dates. But either way, the point is that if your date looks like that, it's not good. It's not going to make sense. So we want to know, how can you convert that into a date format?
Okay,
Easily.
great. Thank you, Avi. So what you can do is we'll show you how to do this quite easily using the mouse. Now, I know many of you will be thinking, in order to format numbers, you need to right-click and then say Format Cells, okay, which is somewhere on this list, Format Cells. Many of you are used to this. Right-click and then Format Cells, and then you change the number formatting over here. But we actually don't need to do that. There are a couple of easier, quicker ways to format these dates. We can go to this drop-down menu. Remember, we just changed it to general, and you'll see here that you have a short date and a long date. Okay, now your short date and your long date may well be different, particularly if you are in a different country to South Africa, because this is the default date setting on my computer, and that's probably because it's in a South African context. So your short date might be programmed slightly differently, but it's not a big issue, because you've got your short date and your long date, and you can actually get a whole host of different date formats if you go to that number formatting dialog box, or if you click here to get there, more number formats. You can see here there are a whole lot of pre-designed date formats. You can even customize your own, but we're not going to go into that for now. What I am going to show you, I'm going to go back to general, and I'm going to show you a keyboard shortcut which will change our data into date format just using a keyboard shortcut, and that is Control and the hash symbol, the hashtag. Okay, so that is found if you're on a South African or US keyboard. That's Control, Shift, and the number 3, and that's on the top of your keyboard, not the number 3 on the far right-hand side of your keyboard. So Control, Shift, 3, which is Control, Shift, and the hashtag. And if you're on a different keyboard, for example, a UK keyboard, particularly if you're based in Kenya, then Avi, you are going to tell us what the keyboard shortcut would be.
Yes, absolutely. So if you're on a keyboard where your hash symbol, which is this, is not, you guys might use a different word. You can tell us if you don't call it a hashtag. Some people, anyway, let us know. If it's not on top of the number 3 on the top of your keyboard, it means that the hash then is probably on top of the enter return key, kind of in the middle of your keyboard. So all you need to do, it's actually quite easy on your keyboard. You just need to press Control and that hash symbol, pound key. I think sometimes people call it that. Then that should work. So it's either Control, Shift, and 3, which essentially gives you Control hash, or just Control and the hashtag, which is just kind of on top of the enter key. Okay, Howard is saying Sulamit. Okay, so either way, that's a great shortcut to easily convert to a date format. The next one we want to look at is column 8. Any idea what this is, guys? What is SAST?
Pop a message in the chat if you know what that is.
Okay, I'm sure many of you are, okay, exactly, Lorato, the first one to say that it's South African Standard Time. It's basically a time. Cool. I'm not going to go into why that's a time or how that equals to a time. It does relate to the date in terms of the number of days since 1st of January 1900. But either way, what we want to do is convert that into a readable, usable date format. So the shortcut's going to be
Time format.
It's going to involve, pardon me?
Sorry, Avi, a readable time format, not a date format. We want it in terms of time.
Want a time format, exactly. Apologies. Out of interest, what you will see if Dan selects that Control Spacebar and converts to a date format, you'll see they're all going to come up as the 1st of January 1900. Okay, so that's just a little clue for those Excel nerds out there, but we're not going to go into that in more detail. The keyboard shortcut to convert to a time involves the @ symbol. So if you're on a keyboard where the @ symbol is on top of the number 2, you're going to press Control Shift and 2. If you're on a US keyboard, your @ symbol is just to the left of the Enter key, but it's on top of another key, of the apostrophe. So what you need to do is press Control Shift and the apostrophe, which is just to the left of your return key. Okay, does that make sense? Control Shift and the @ symbol, which is just next to the Enter key if you're on if you're on a UK keyboard. And that should convert to a time format. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Avi. And I wouldn't panic too much about this if it's a little bit overwhelming with learning all these new shortcuts. Firstly, we've got a really nice cheat sheet which is available for download on that same link. Maybe Avi shortly will post that same link to the registration page for this webinar, because in addition to downloading the spreadsheet and working along with us, there is a red button there to download the cheat sheet where you've got all these keyboard shortcuts and more to help you to learn to master the keyboard shortcuts. And in addition, this is not a very common one because it's not that frequent that you're working with times in Excel. You may or you may not, but either way, it's useful and you can use it or don't use it. Then we can see in column I that we've got member since, and that's also in date format, and that has been pre-formatted, so we don't need to worry about that, but you can use that column also just to practice in your own time. Okay, but we have come to the end of secret number 3, which is number formatting, and specifically using keyboard shortcuts to format your numbers so that they tell the right story. Okay, now there has been a question in the Q&A, can we get to pivot tables? So thank you for that question. I can't remember who it was, but thank you for posing that question. We will be getting there. Okay, and we just need to get our data ready. We need to get it sorted and organized in order to make it meaningful when we convert it into a pivot table. Okay, and I mentioned the word sorted. I wasn't actually referring to literally sorting the data, but these filter buttons that are up in the header row here enable us to sort and filter our data very, very quickly and easily. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to sort the data alphabetically by last name, what would I do? I would click on that filter button in that particular heading, and I can simply say sort A to Z, which is the top option, top item on that list. And there we go. We see the surnames have been sorted alphabetically from A through to Z. Okay, and that was really simple and straightforward. And I can undo that using Control Z on my keyboard. And I can sort the progress, for example, from largest to smallest. If I want to see all the people at the top who have completed the training, all of those people are 100% done. All the way down, as I scroll down, I'll see the rest of the people. Okay, so Control Z. And I can also filter the data. We're not going to get stuck into filtering too much, but I will show you very briefly if we want to see the different types of workshops. If we click over there, we can see besides for the sort features, we've got tick boxes next to each of the unique items in this list. We have select all, okay, which we can click on, and then we've got Excel 101, 202, and 303. So for example, and Outlook Secrets, if we want to see only the people who have done Excel 101, we select Excel 101 and we click OK, and there you can see that it's filtered. We get a little funnel in the filter button to indicate that this particular column has been filtered. And we also see that we've got blue row numbers down the left-hand side. That's another indicator to us that the data has been filtered. Okay, I can undo that with Control Z. And just lastly, before we continue with the next secret, is when we scroll down, watch this quickly, because at the moment I've got this orange header row up at the top, but as I scroll down, you can see that the orange row has disappeared, but those headings have gone into the A, B, C headers up at the top of my spreadsheet, meaning that it's frozen the top row for me. And that's a big frustration. If you're not working in table mode and you haven't frozen that top row, then when you scroll down, you lose the headings. In this case, because we're in table mode, we've still got the headings there. We can still see that this is a column of full names, first names, last names, etc. And we still even have the ability to sort and filter, even though we have scrolled down in our data. Okay, so we've now covered quite a lot. A reminder to download your cheat sheet on that web page so that you've got that as a useful resource going forward and you can put into practice everything that we're showing you here today. And now it's time to look quite briefly at an amazing tool, which is secret number 4. It is tool number 4 that we're teaching you today, revealing to you today, and it really helps us to visually highlight specific data in our spreadsheet. As I said, visually, in a formatted, really visually appealing way so that we can draw attention to those specific values. So what are we talking about? We are talking about conditional formatting because, for example, if we wanted to highlight column D, and we always do this, we always want to draw attention to the progress because we want people to see, for example, on a leaderboard, almost like a heat map, like the people who have done 100% of the course must be in green and the people who have done 0% must be in red. And that's like a color scale that we use. So what we could do is we could go and do this manually. Once again, I'm going to show you how to go about this in a nice, efficient way. Okay, all the hundreds, we can do these 3 in a row, and then the people who are quite low, like this 17% over here, we can put that in like red or maybe in an orangey color. Okay, clearly this is going to take us, Avi's going like this, clearly this is going to take us a long time. It's not going to be an efficient and foolproof way of doing it. So what we do instead is we use conditional formatting, which is formatting that is conditional upon the actual values in the cells. So once again, we're going to obey commandment number 6, which says that we must select the entire column or select our data. So we press Control Spacebar because we're applying conditional formatting to all of the data in this column. And we're going to the Home tab and to the Conditional Formatting button. It says easily spot trends and patterns in your data using bars, colors, icons to visually highlight important values. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose a type of rule. And in this case, what we want is a color scale. And you can see here it's got pre-designed color scales. The first one is a green, yellow, red color scale. It says they apply a color gradient to a range of cells. The color indicates where each cell value falls within that range. And when I click OK, you can see it's done all of the hard work for us. It's made no mistakes because we've simply applied a rule. We haven't left it to chance. There's no human error. The computer has gone and Excel has gone and formatted each cell depending on its value. Okay, which is fantastic. So we can straight away see the problematic cases, which are orange or red, and we can also sort the data largest to smallest. And there you can see all the 100% are coming up in green. And if I scroll down with page down, okay, there have been a lot of people who have completed the training, which is obviously a very good sign. And as we go down, we will see the numbers starting to reduce. Okay, this is actually fantastic. Avi, I wasn't aware that we've had so much success with the training in terms of completion, but that is fantastic. There we go. There's the 95%, 94%. And as we go down, we see it get more and more towards the red. And I can go back up by pressing Control and the up arrow. So that is conditional formatting. That is one specific type of conditional formatting rule. I will show you briefly, very briefly, because we are heading towards the end of the hour. We have budgeted to go till 12:15 the hour, 12:15 or 1:15 if you're in East Africa. And we also do want to handle some questions. I know Avi has been handling many of your questions in the Q&A. So we don't want to rush unnecessarily, but we also don't want to leave anybody disappointed if you did budget an hour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all the data in column E because I want to show you another example of how we can use this. And what we want to do is we want to visually highlight all the Excel 101s. So in this case, we're going to go to conditional formatting, and instead of color scales, we're going to say we want to highlight specific cells. So these are rules for highlighting specific cells, and it's either text that's equal to, or cell values that are equal to, or text that contains. We could use either of these. We're going to say equal to. We're going to type in Excel space 101, and you can see the default there is light red fill with dark red text, and it's automatically showing us a preview. We click OK, and there we go. And while we have this selected, we can do one more example. We can say equal to Excel 202, and in this case, we don't want the same light red. We want yellow fill with dark yellow text, and there we go. And you could do the same thing for Excel 303 and Outlook Secrets if you want, and there we go, quite nice, visually highlighting specific cells based on their values. Conditional formatting is secret number 4, and it's a great way to make your data make more sense and tell a better, more effective story. Okay, Avi, how are you doing there? All good?
Fantastic.
Okay, great. So I think it's time for secret number 5. I hope we haven't gone too quickly. Remember that we are recording this, and you can always go back, watch the recording, and practice with the spreadsheet. And once again, practice, for us, we don't say practice makes perfect. We say practice makes permanent. So the more you practice, the more permanent the skills will become. So we definitely encourage you to take this and all the skills that we've shown you today and really practice them and start to implement them. Okay, now pivot tables are amazing, wonderful tools within Excel which help us to summarize a complex data set. Now, here we've got 9 columns, and we've got over 6,000 rows, and it's quite difficult to really get a high-level sense of what's going on in the data. For example, Avi, if you and I are looking at this data practically and we're saying, which are the courses which have the best completion rate? Is it Excel 101 or 202 or 303 or Outlook Secrets? It's quite difficult to tell. If we don't have a pivot table, we're going to have to filter the data, look at the results, try and use the total row or do different calculations. Worst case, we could pull out a pocket calculator and start crunching numbers. We definitely don't want to do that. So a pivot table is designed to really give us a dashboard. If you were driving in a car and you want to see your speed and you want to see the revs of the engine, you want to see how much fuel you've got, you want to see the temperature of the engine, you're going to look on the dashboard. And in a similar way, we can use a pivot table or pivot chart dashboard to indicate to us what are the key metrics, what are the key performance indicators, what are the main statistics out of this data that we need to know and we need to see at a glance in order to make better decisions. And now that we've formatted our data, we've got it ready, we've got it prepared, we can now convert it into a pivot table. Okay, and we're going to do that by going to the Insert tab on the ribbon. Okay, we're going to wait for my Excel to load. Okay, there we go. It took a couple of seconds. By the way, I'm going to save my work because I probably should be in a better habit of saving my work every 5 or 10 minutes. Excel does have an auto save feature, and I remember I did save as right at the start. But with load shedding and with the risk of one's computer crashing, specifically if you're on a big spreadsheet, then it is a very good idea to save your work regularly. So in this case, I'm going to press Control S, and that saves my work. And now I go to the Insert tab and I hover over the Pivot Table button over there. It says easily arrange and summarize complex data into a pivot table, and it says FYI, for your information, you can double click a value to see which detailed values make up the summarized total. We can explore that in a few moments time, but you'll notice that all I did was I stood somewhere in my table and I clicked on that button, and I can just simply click OK. I don't actually need to worry about any of that stuff for now because I'm simply creating a pivot table, and it's going to be in a new sheet by default. I'm going to zoom in, and this is where my pivot table is going to sit, and I can change the name of this particular sheet tab by pressing or by double clicking on sheet 1, and I can call it pivot table, press enter, and this sheet is where I'm going to build my pivot table and then customize my pivot table. Now you notice that this is the placeholder where the pivot table is going to sit. And then these are the field names. In other words, the column headings. You'll recognize these: full name, first name, last name, etc. And these 4 areas over here, these areas are where we're going to be moving fields around to build and slice and dice our pivot table. Okay. So we're going to be starting off, and the question that I asked a couple of moments ago was, what if we want to see the progress according to each workshop level or each course? Let's see what the aggregate or average progress is on Excel 101 and how does that compare to 202, 303, and Outlook. So what we're going to do is we want our workshops to be the row headings. So the best place to start, the most appropriate place to start when building a pivot table is using the rows area over here. And we can put the workshop field in the rows area through one of two methods. Okay, method number one is actually the simplest, which is just to tick the box. Okay, and when we tick that box, it automatically pops workshop into the rows area over there. We get the 4 unique items down the left-hand side, and then we can build on top of that. If I untick that, it goes back to where we were. And what I can do instead is I can actually click and drag to one of the areas. And we're going to drag it specifically into the rows area. Okay, so the row labels become the workshop, the unique workshop items. Then we want to analyze progress according to each workshop. So what is the progress? On average, for 101, 202, 303, and Outlook Secrets. So in that case, what we're going to do is, again, 2 options, either tick the box or click and drag. And when we tick the box, it automatically pops progress into the values area. Why? Because Excel is smart. It identifies that those are values. They're not names of things. They are values, they're numbers, and therefore they should be in the values area over there. But what it does automatically is it sums it up. It sums up all the progress figures. So these numbers are actually quite abstract and quite irrelevant to us because they're adding up all those percentage figures. So as I say, quite irrelevant and not very useful. And what we do instead is we need to change those to average figures so that they are more meaningful to us. And the way we do that is we click on sum of progress, either just on it or on that little arrow, okay? And we go to value field settings. You might be familiar with this if you have used pivot tables before. And what we've got over here is it says summarize values by, and we want to summarize the values by average instead of by sum. And we click OK, and there we go. Okay, now we're one step closer to what we need, but quite messy. We don't necessarily need so many decimals. It looks like there's like 9 decimal places there. We can identify these as 82%, 80%, 78 and 91 and overall 81, but it will definitely look a lot better if we format them as percentages. We can go and select the cells and then press Control-Shift%, but that's not the best way to do it because the nature of a pivot table is such that we pivot it. So pivoting means rotating on a central point, twisting and turning and pivoting and slicing and dicing. So the nature of a pivot table is that through clicking and dragging and selecting different things, we can pivot it to exactly what we need. We can play around. So this pivot table may well change shape and change form, and therefore we're not intending to format just these 5 cells. We actually want to format the entire field. And the way we can do that is we can go back to value field settings, either by going here to value field settings, or we can actually double click on the heading. If we double click on the heading, it takes us straight there. So we double clicked on average of progress. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to number format. We're going to go to percentage, and you can see there decimal places too. That's okay. Click OK, we click OK again, and there we go. This entire field has been formatted beautifully now in percentages with 2 decimal places, and it tells a much better story. Okay, Avi, what are your thoughts about this pivot table? Do you think there's anything else we should add or slice or dice? Anything else we should include here?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good intro and a good taste for now. Just to give people an idea and a basic concept of how it works and what it can do. In terms of this specific data, we would get a better insight into the numbers over the years if we added in a date. But dealing with dates in pivot tables sometimes can get complicated. I think it's just going to confuse matters. But it is important just to note that all of what we've covered today is covered in Excel 202 plus much more content and in much more detail. So just interesting for everyone to know that in Excel 202, we're going to lots more detail of pivot tables and dashboards and slices and really just making an interactive dashboard and looking at multiple fields and dealing with dates. So yeah, I think for now it's worthwhile to leave it at that. Hopefully that's a good intro and a good taste. I remember when I first did my first pivot table, I first saw someone doing one. It really seemed like rocket science to me. And I think the concept, at least for us, it is quite simple, but I think when you're still new to it, it might take a bit of time to get used to it and get comfortable with it. So I don't want to over bamboozle anyone.
You know what we can show just briefly before we summarize everything that we've done is, if you remember, when we hovered our mouse cursor over this pivot table button, remember we can't, well, not remember, but notice that we can't click on this button right now because we're already in a pivot table. But it does say FYI. For your information, you can double click on a value to see which detailed values make up the summarized total. For example, if we want to drill deep, we want to deep dive into that 80%, those people who have completed Excel 202 or who are busy with 202, we can double click on that cell. And what it does is it pulls up a brand new sheet. It puts it into a table. You can see there that tables and pivot tables work together. And it's given us all of those data points, all of those rows, all of those people who are busy with Excel 202. Okay, so that's very, very useful. If we don't want that, we can right click on the tab and click on delete. Okay, fantastic. So there's the double click and the deep dive into the pivot table. And what you'll notice as well, just very briefly, is that we've got two tabs, contextual tabs, when we're standing inside our pivot table, where we can go to pivot table analyze or design. Your tabs, depending on your version of Excel, might be labeled slightly differently, but in a similar way to a table, you can format your pivot table according to your taste. You can choose different styles. You can change it. Banded rows you can include, banded columns, row headers, etc., etc. So you can really play around, format it to your liking. And what we're going to do now is we're going to sum up these 5 best kept Excel secrets for HR professionals, but even beyond just HR. These are really, really useful secrets to remember and to apply, and let's bring it all together. So secret number 1 was working in table mode, and we saw that Control T, what it does is it converts an ordinary range of data into table mode. Then secret number 2 is text to columns, where Control Spacebar is used as a keyboard shortcut to select the entire column, and then on the data tab and in the text to columns with the text to columns button, or using the Alt key. We haven't touched on that today, but you can experiment with the Alt key. We call it the magic Alt key. It activates all of the shortcut keys on the ribbon, which lets you access any button on the ribbon without actually touching the mouse. Okay, and text to columns we use to split up that full name column into multiple different columns. Then we looked at number formatting shortcuts, okay, using a South African or US keyboard. We have Control Shift and, okay, let me change this pointer to laser pointer. Okay, there we go. So general number format is Control Shift and tilde, which we call squiggle, Control Shift 1, Control Shift 2, or the @ symbol for time, Control Shift 3, Control Shift 4, and Control Shift 5. And this takes a bit of practice to get used to and to remember all of these. But once again, they are on our keyboard shortcut cheat sheet. If you happen to be, okay, let me just find the next slide over here. If you happen to be in Kenya or in East Africa with a specific UK keyboard, then your shortcuts will be slightly different. We've highlighted some of them over here. For example, Control Shift and tilde, which looks like that for general number formatting, and then Control and the hash, okay, to change into date format. Okay, so just some slight differences there depending on which keyboard you're on. Okay, then let's move on to conditional formatting. That was found on the Home tab. There's the button over there. Okay, that was secret number 4, which helped us to highlight specific data. And then secret number 5 was converting to a pivot table. Okay. So these are the 5 secrets which we've covered today. And let's definitely stay connected. So how are we going to stay connected? Okay, Avi is going to post the links in the chat for us to connect on LinkedIn. It would be fantastic to stay in touch. We do post quite regularly on LinkedIn. We mentioned earlier that Avi posted a video. We often post useful resources on LinkedIn, and it's a great way to stay in contact. Okay, you can also access our website. Okay, you can access our website, which is excelacademyinc.com. You can also hold up your camera right now, and it should automatically, if you hold your camera to the screen, it should automatically pick up that QR code and then give you an option to click, and it will take you straight to our website, which is excelacademyinc.com. If you want to contact us, there is our email address, info@excelacademyinc.com. And if you are in East Africa and you are interested in our training for you and or your team, then definitely it would be great to have a conversation. You can reach out to Ian. I know Ian knows each of you personally, so we are working together to deliver our Excel training. And just to touch on very briefly that our delivery method of our training has evolved over the years. When I started the business in the beginning of 2014, everything was done in person. Everything was done face to face. And had this pandemic and lockdown hit back then, it would have been quite problematic because we didn't have any online solution. What we've done over the years is that we've transformed the delivery method, and we've transformed the whole business from being quite face-to-face centric to being online, and we like to call it lockdown friendly or lockdown proof, because what it means right now is that for the duration of this lockdown period, as well as for the last few years, people have been accessing and completing our training online via our online learning platform. Okay, it's a members area of our website. You would get a username and a password, and you log in and you watch a series of videos. You do a series of Excel exercises. Once again, roll up your sleeves and get busy and get your hands dirty. There are multiple choice quizzes, as well as an assessment at the end of each course. There are in fact 3 courses, Excel 101, 202, and 303, as you could see in the data there. And as Avi mentioned, a lot of the data analytics, the data analysis tools and techniques, which we've touched on today, we go into a lot more depth in Excel 202. Excel 101 is designed as a foundational workshop where we teach best practices and a whole lot of efficiencies and shortcuts and really foundational skills. 202 is more advanced Excel, and 303 is focusing mainly on macros and VBA. So each of the 3 courses is available online, and we provide support. We typically get people onboarded through a live Zoom webinar just like this, just to show everyone exactly how the online platform works and to answer a whole lot of questions. And then it's available 24/7 on the learning platform, as I mentioned, an online platform which you can access from anywhere in the world, any time of day, on any device, and you can actually work through the material in your own time and at your own pace, which is really nice with a tool like Excel, because people learn at different rates and people have different experiences or experience levels when it comes to Excel. It is a technical skill, and it does take different people different amounts of time to get the hang of it. And the nice thing about doing it online on your own is you can pause and you can rewind and you can rewatch, which is not so easy if you're in a classroom with a physical trainer and a whole group of colleagues or other delegates. It's quite difficult to pause the trainer the entire time and rewind and continue. So yeah, we are proud of that, and we are here if you would like to learn more and you would like to engage with us on those Excel workshops, which are available immediately on our platform. And once again, a big thank you to each of you for giving us your time. I truly hope that this was extremely valuable, beneficial, practical, and that you're walking away today with a whole lot of skills that you can implement in your day-to-day work on Excel and maybe even beyond, because what we find is that when one becomes confident and proficient on Excel, it actually has a ripple effect, and one starts to work more proficiently, more productively, more confidently on other programs within Microsoft Office and even beyond. Having an approach of working smart, using keyboard shortcuts, doing things the efficient way, it makes work a lot more fun, a lot more efficient, and a lot more enjoyable to everyone. So I see a whole lot of comments coming in. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, Howard, for your comments. Cecil, Vivian. Vivian's in Bellevue. Thank you to Kathy. Thank you to Maya Spector. Thank you to C. Motua. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Mochelang. Thank you, El De Beer, Elvins, Peter. Pop us a message in the chat. Let us know what you thought of it. And we actually, before you go, I forgot about the polls. What was your favorite section or favorite secret out of the 5 sections or secrets that we covered today. I'm going to launch that polling now. If you're watching on Zoom, you can poll, you can vote. What was the most aha light bulb moment? Yesterday, my light bulb moment was when Eskom decided to turn the lights back on. Hopefully today you've had a couple of light bulb moments. Let's get a sense. Leave that up for another 30 seconds or so. Okay, while you are voting, I want to just give another massive thank you to Ian for your support and your partnership on this project. We are very, very grateful and feel privileged to partner with you in opening up opportunities and adding value into East Africa and beyond. So thank you to you, and thank you to Avi for co-piloting. As always, rock solid. If you are ever interested in hosting your own webinar, it's definitely highly recommended to have someone like Avi running things with you, just to help with the technical side. And yeah, I know that there were a lot of questions that came through. I'm going to stop the poll now. It looks like this is quite interesting. You can see the results, what people found useful. Okay, people love text to columns. That's interesting. And there was a lot of popularity with all of them. Conditional formatting came second, and pivot tables came in third. Okay, Avi or Ian, anything to add from you? I'll leave it to you if you want to turn your cameras on and unmute yourself and just add anything from your side.
Yeah, just thank you to you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you stay in touch and be safe.
Okay, fantastic. I think Ian has unmuted himself.
Yes, thank you very much to both Avi and Dan for a fantastic 1 hour, 15 minutes. As I said, I think the more we start to manage information, the more value we generate from that information, because it helps us to ask the powerful questions. And that's what a lot of leaders and managers are actually trying to focus on in this new reality that we now face, as we start to become more agile and also simultaneously build more resilience. So guys, asante sana for a great 1 hour, 15 minutes, very valuable.
Great. Thank you, Ian. Santi sana to you and to everyone. Once again, we will be sharing the link to the recording, which will be a Zoom recording as well as on YouTube. So you will definitely be able to rewatch, recap, and share it with colleagues, friends, family, so that everybody can get the value of this session. And yeah, we will be in touch very soon. And yeah, once again, have a great day. Thanks for joining us.